Hello and welcome to today's Cosmic Connection, where we're going to look at today's planetary movements and see how their energies and influence may guide us through the day. Today we are looking at Friday the 24th of November 2023. Today we see Mercury forming a quinquet aspect with Uranus in Taurus in retrograde motion. Quinquet aspects are variable aspects as they vary for each of us as individuals. They depend on where we stand in both planetary energies and how they encourage us to bring change from conflict and alignment that can be seen from these individual interactions of these planetary bodies. Quinquet aspects combined contrary elements, tension as the energies try to gel, but don't. They do their best, but the tension is always there under the surface. So depending on how these contrary elements, these contrary energies, try to blend and gel will depend on the results we experience in their energies. Mercury is the planet of communication, expression, the ways we process and understand the messages around us. It is the information we take in and incorporate into the ways we think and speak. It is our mental realm and the different forms we can use to express it. As it represents communication in all its forms, it is what we say, our words, our tones, our thoughts and expressions, our intellect and mind, our processing and understanding, how we learn, what we learn, the messages we receive, and how we express ourselves in all our forms. It is how we see and perceive the world and the impression we leave on the world with our forms of communication and expression. While in Sagittarius, we have been expanding our communication forms, our words, the emotions we hold, allowing us to express ourselves in new ways. This is allowing our changing expressions to reflect the ways we think and see ourselves in our world, really allowing us to shift the ways we are looking at things, learning about things, expressing things into infinite potential, into growth and expansion. Mercury in Sagittarius is really allowing us to learn, grow, and expand in our mental realm, in our realms of communication. Uranus is the planet of cosmic connection and revolutionary change. It represents freedom, doing things our own ways, individuality, uniqueness, and the rebellion to simply be. It looks at things and does things outside the box in revolutionary ways. It is the energy of the unexpected and drastic change that frees us in many forms. It is the ability to be original, innovative, and most importantly, unapologetically ourselves in all our ever-changing forms. While in Taurus, it has been about grounding in our own uniqueness, in ourself, in our individual form, allowing us to nourish and mother ourselves into our authentic form, allowing us the power to simply be, to allow ourselves to change and grow, and to understand those processes are the cycles of life. We will forever be learning, changing, and growing, forever aligning in our newest, truest form. While in retrograde, Uranus has been bringing to the surface those aspects of our being we are too afraid to show, the things that make us truly unique, and showing us how hiding those aspects of our being are blocking us from our truest form, really showing us the power that those darkest aspects of being hold, allowing us to bring our truest self forward, and allowing us to stand in our sovereignty. So this meeting of Mercury in Sagittarius and Uranus in Taurus in retrograde motion in a variable aspect is really going to challenge how we are communicating and expressing our truest forms? Are we holding back expressing ourselves as our truest form? Is there something that we can bring into being that will allow us to be ourselves and express ourselves in our truest form? Really asking us to look at how we are communicating and expressing ourselves, enabling us to bring our communications into honesty with whom we truly are. Asking us who we are and who we want to be, and aiding us in grounding those things, in sparking our desires that make us whom we are in our being. A very powerful, variable aspect that is going to be very personal to us all as we look at ourselves. And how we express ourselves to ourselves and others. Allowing us to shift into more honest and expansive forms of expression that will allow our individuality to shine through. A powerful aspect to open a day where we see this shift into our influence of our actions as Mars shifts into Sagittarius, where we question our inner transformations as the moon meets Pluto in challenge, and where we see our inner grounded self align with our structures, routines, and patterns to bring those transformations and changes into being. Next, we see Mars shift into Sagittarius. After a few days of sitting in void of course, we are ready to expand our actions and focus them on the things we know we need to grow. While Mars was in void of course, we were able to see our actions and drive as they are in their rawest form, allowing us to transform that power into a new expansive ways, an adventure we are now stepping into as Mars transits Sagittarius. Mars is the planet of action, focus, energy, and drive. It represents our actions, the things we initiate, our ambitions and goals, our desires, and what motivates us to act, how we direct and use our energy, how and on what we focus, our emotions and movements through life, and how intensely we turn up. Mars is also connected to the energies of frustration, tension, and challenge, as well as anger and aggression. It is our power and how we use it. So entering Sagittarius, we are going to be looking at how we can expand our actions, how we can expand our movements, and really look at the actions we are taking that shoot us into momentum, into growth, as into abundance. Sagittarius is the mutable fire sign, so it is the energy of adaptation, change, and renewal from a place of our desires, of our actions, of our drive forward, allowing us to grow and change from our desires and goals as they themselves grow and change. So this entry into Sagittarius is really going to push us to act in ways that are aligned with our goals, bringing an element of responsibility and accountability to how we turn up and act that we previously didn't hold. It is going to allow us to take leadership in our lives and drive ourselves forward with intentional actions of our own. We are going to be acting for ourselves, expanding where we personally want to go. A very powerful transit for Mars to work through that is going to push us forward into action at a time where it is harder to act due to the growing cold and the darker nights, really supporting us in investing in active learning so we can build the wisdom we hold. This is going to allow us to act from a grounded place within attracting those things we are working towards. A very powerful transit that we'll learn more about as we interact with other planetary bodies, starting with its interaction with Saturn in Pisces tomorrow. As the moon continues to move through the zodiac and growing in illumination, it moves into void of course between Aries and Taurus, forming a challenging square with Pluto. So forming a challenging square with Pluto in void of course between Capricorn and Aquarius. While in void of course, planetary bodies are unaffected by the zodiac energies, allowing them to connect with us in their rawest form. This raw connection really empowering us to connect with that raw energy from within ourselves aiding us in aligning in our individual powers. Here the moon and Pluto meet in challenge, as square aspects require some learning and understanding of all sides of the story in order to make an informed decision on which direction to move in. Until this decision is made, these energies will continue to meet head on, unable to move forward and back into a balanced flow, creating restriction and blockages in the ways our energies move and flow. The moon is the illumination of our intuition, our emotional inner self. It is the inward inner self, our emotions, our feelings, our inner knowing, our intuition, our compassion and empathy, our abilities to understand others from a core emotional level, our unconscious mind, our inner reflective self. It is a self that only we truly know, our emotional intelligence, and our knowing inner being. Pluto is the planet of death, transformation, and rebirth, representing the cycles that life rolls through: rebirth, renewal, change, regeneration, rising from the ashes of destruction to create anew. It is our power to change and transform, to evolve and grow, to work through the cycles we encounter as we grow. So this inner illumination meeting in conflict with our powerful changing self is really asking us to look at where we need to make changes in order to be ourselves, to align our inner selves in our being. It is a time to look at the ways we have transformed and the growth that has emerged from these conflicts of inner self and power. It is asking us to take power, to take responsibility for where we need to go, the choices and decisions we need to take, allowing us to shift our choices into being from the decisions we decide to go forward with. As the moon moves into Taurus, it forms a sextile with Saturn in Pisces, really wrapping everything up in some action, in some consistency, in some change that is brought into being by the practices and routines that we keep. Saturn is the planet of structure and boundaries, karma, and the lessons we learn. It represents the taskmaster, our limits and what restricts us, the hurdles we may encounter, the structures, routines, and disciplines we build with foundational growth, our plans and goals and how we execute them, our responsibilities and how we take accountability for our actions, the efforts we put into things, the lessons we learn, and our karmic cycles. It is the energy of learning and growing combined with consistent action and keeping up with the boundaries we have established. It is the energy of getting things done and keeping on top of them through routines and practices. While in Pisces, Saturn has been learning to bring flexibility, adaptability, and fluidity to how we turn up the actions and routines we take, allowing us to change our patterns and habits to enable us to turn up for ourselves in all our forms, allowing us to shift our practices and routines in order to support ourselves, forming from a foundational level. It has been about bringing completion to how we are working within our cycles in order to close out old cycles and make room for new ones. Sextiles are cooperative aspects that blend the energies together easily and allow them to connect and work together, allowing us to ground our inner being, in our routines and practices that we act in, and allowing us to turn up for ourselves and how we approach the things we need to get done. This is allowing us to bring this nourishing, mothering energy to how we approach the tasks we need to get done, the new routines we are establishing to support ourselves in our continued growth. It is a really beneficial connection to aid us in setting boundaries and goals that are realistic and attainable, helping us to empower ourselves in our ability to create and achieve our goals. The perfect energy to aid us in the growth we have been building as we get closer to the full moon, the point of accumulation, and the end point of the waxing cycle, the growing cycle, the lunar energies of abundance and growth. So this sextile aspect with the planets that help us to turn up and grow, Saturn, is really bringing us into our power, allowing us to shift our habits and practices to achieve our goals, allowing us to focus our energy on the important next steps while planning the way to go. A day that is really going to encourage us to expand and grow as we make choices to change the ways we are turning up and communicating our abilities and goals. It is going to allow us to continue to shift into expansion, into abundance, into the growing forms we have been nourishing into being, getting us ready to align in our inner abundance tomorrow morning. Until tomorrow, goodbye, my friends.